welcome back to Bread and Butter, where we are serving up the basics for Hearthstone improvement. This is episode 118. Today, as always, I'm joined by Pylet. Pylet, how are you doing today?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. And today we have a very special guest. He's a former Grandmaster. He's known for a very analytical approach and consistent performances in high stakes tournaments. He won the 2018 HGC Fall Championship, and he followed that up with a top 8 finish in the 2019 Hearthstone World Championship. Please welcome Language Hacker. Language Hacker, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. So, what have you been doing inside of Hearthstone?
Inside of Hearthstone, lately I've actually been really into the game where I don't actually exactly know what. I have an idea of why I've been back into the game, but I had a bit of a slump where I was playing it kind of on and off, but I wasn't super into it. And maybe in the past 3, 4, 5 months, I've actually been extremely into it, playing way more than I used to, and enjoying it as well. So I'm pretty happy about in-game stuff lately.
What exactly? What are some of the decks, or what is about the meta, or what is it about Hearthstone right now that has drawn you back in?
So I think the big thing is that the competitive, well, snowballing from the competitive announcement that they had late last year or early this year, that kind of got me excited again, because we hadn't had open qualifying tournaments for quite some time, and I felt like that was the bread and butter of the competitive and non-competitive communities, having something to look forward to. So when they announced that, I was very happy to kind of get back into it. That's what remotivated me. In terms of what I'm playing, I'm actually enjoying the game so much. I'm playing everything. I've played every single class, I'd say, in like the past month, and that does not happen very often, because I'm very stubborn and I hate a few classes and I refuse to play it. Them, yeah.
Do you want to mention which classes, or why is it priest?
What the? I always hate playing against rogue because everything they do annoys me. Every archetype annoys me. I don't care what they do. It's just, oh god, they're playing cards. But I can appreciate that other people enjoy that, and I'm happy that they can play it. I will just complain whenever I'm against them. It's mainly rogue and demon hunter. The rest I'm pretty, and hunter itself actually is probably one of my least played. But probably because it doesn't fit my play style as much as the other classes. I'm kind of more of a controlly, slow-paced guy, and hunter has had that in some cases, but at one point or other, hunter just does start going for the face.
Fantastic. And on Pylet, I think you've been playing some rogue, demon hunter, and hunter. How's that been going for you lately?
It's been a rough start to the month. We'll get to that when we get to our topic later on, but it was definitely inspired by my experience for the first 8 or 9 days of the month, to where I wasn't playing as bad as I thought I was. I think I was at like a 42-43% win rate. It felt like I was at a 25% win rate though, and just could not get any traction going. And I was actually playing good decks. Normally when I'm doing this, because I'm doing home brews or memes trying to do my legend climb, I'm like 2-8 with Cliff Dive DH. I'm barely breaking even with Drunk Paladin. Rogue I didn't even look at, but I wasn't winning there. And then finally yesterday, I decided to switch over to this Double Frost Unholy Death Knight with Rambunctious Stuffy, which for those of you who don't remember what that is, because it hasn't been played, it's the 3-mana 4/2 that gets reborn whenever you play a frost spell. That is a constant effect, not a spell burst. So when it comes back, you get to reborn it again. And I'm like 75% with the deck this weekend. So finally have something going and feel like I know what I'm doing again, which is fantastic. Also played a little bit of BGs. Tito and I normally play some duos, at the end of his stream. And then last night I ended up playing one more game of solos afterwards. Got Cenarius and hit the grossest of high rolls constantly, to where I was able to power level up to 6 very quickly. Got a trinket that my first 2 refreshes each turn gave only tier 6 minions, and I had just all golden elementals that were giving. Had the one where when you play an elemental, give 3 friendly elementals stats. It was giving like 25 twice or something crazy like that. So absolutely disgusting. Steamrolled through that lobby very quickly, and it was a good spot to end the night with.
It's usually me that ends up with scenarios. I think I've ended up with scenarios about 6 or 7 times in our duos since it came
Yes.
out. So it's really fun in duos because there's always you can either both play parallel or one person could be greedy and the other person can not be greedy. And when I play scenarios, I get to be greedy because I get to push the button once, twice, 3 times, and it's just like, well, I guess I'm doing this. So that's a lot of fun. Uh, I have been trying to climb early because I've really been pushing it to the end of the month every month, just because of life. So I'm like, I'm gonna get there early. I'm just gonna play a good deck. So I've been playing some Pirate Paladin the last few days, and I had a nice. What was I think I was 14-4 or something like that, and I got up to D1. I was and I should have just finished last night. That's how I felt. But then I was like, Pyle, let's play some duos, and I knew that things are gonna go bad when I come back. So I lost my first 2 games today, and I stopped there. But it wasn't because of how I was playing or anything. It was because at my house, we are putting a Murphy bed in my older son's room, and the guy was coming today to do it. So my wife and my son were moving things out of his room into another room, so there was room and all that. And every time I was almost beating this Death Knight that I fought hard back. I had this giant minion. I take my turn. It's like, hey, can you come upstairs? It's like, oh, fine. And then the next time I was beating a mage, and then it was like, hey, can you come upstairs? I'm like, I can't do this because I'm just not going to be able, because I can't say no. I'm playing a game, especially right now, right? So we'll get back at it. We're doing pretty well. The deck's stupid. The deck's pretty good. No AOE really, but outside of that, it's pretty good. But we'll get there hopefully earlier this week and move on. But language hacker, what have you been doing outside of the game of Hearthstone?
Outside of Hearthstone, living, I got married last year. I've been getting accustomed to married life. I've been doing some work, full-time job stuff. That covers most of it, actually, outside of Hearthstone and various other games. But we'll lop that in together with Hearthstone.
You've been playing the Bazaar?
I played way too much Bazaar when it came out, and I had a blast with it. And more recently, my latest addiction has been Blueprints, and I cannot stop playing it. It's just go play it.
Okay, what is it?
It's I suck at labeling these games, like the genres. It's the idea behind it is you're a kid whose family member has died and left you a mansion with a twist. You have to actually find this hidden room in his mansion before you actually get the keys to the house and whatever. And it's all about going through the house, which has like changing rooms every day, kind of like a labyrinth, and you have to figure out how to find that last room and get to it. And it's got that randomness element with some control to it that's really nice. And it's also kind of a roguelike where you can get benefits over time, and it's just very satisfying to play. The imagery is beautiful, the story is nice, it's so detailed, the music is epic, the gameplay is engaging, and it's satisfying to go through, even when you don't actually, it's got like runs, but even if you don't get to the end of the run, you still feel like you've accomplished something. It's great.
Sounds like Hades, but yeah, I think old Tedo was talking about that game on Squelch. I mean on Blizzard. I'm like, I know I've heard this somewhere. So yeah.
Hat and Torby and a few other people have been talking about it in Coin Concede also. I just downloaded it yesterday to get to when I have some time.
Mm-hmm. I'd love to hear about that.
All right, well, I will get it as well, probably, but then I'll probably still not. It'll be one of those games I'll buy, and then I'll be like, I need to get to this, and then I'll just play Hearthstone instead.
Oh my god, I feel so attacked. Yeah.
Oh, it's just me. Pylet, what have you been doing outside of Hearthstone?
Just continuing to check off the end of the year performances. 3 down, 3 to go. So had another concert last week for school and have a few more things coming up, but we're 10 more days with students, so slowly winding down, getting to the end of the year and getting everything set and planned for marching band and next school year. Outside of that, just had some time. The weather's kind of fully turned here, which has been nice. It's been in the 70s pretty much every day except for one. So been able to go outside, take walks. Our school hosted a Relay for Life event last week, so we were outside for that, and I'm used to being at the elementary and being voluntold for everything because I was one of the few teachers that saw all the students. But I volunteered to be in the dunk tank and thankfully got the shortest shift. So that was a good time. So always a good event, and a lot of support in our community for that. And, outside of that, gaming, haven't done a ton, just a couple chill kind of brain off type games when I get home and don't have the mental capacity to play Hearthstone, but want to do something. So played some Forza, just some other chill games.
Fair enough. So I worked 40 hours this week, Monday through Thursday, just because I had to go home on Thursday night to do an appointment at my kid's school. My plan was do the appointment, register my car, get my car inspected, go see Thunderbolts, pick up my son at school.
Mm-hmm.
Simple. Failed the inspection.
Oh.
Had to go get it repaired because of my life situation, the way I'm moving back and forth, it's going to be a pain in the butt to do any of that, right? So got into a garage, one that I remember I'm not very fond of, but like they were able to get me in right now. $1,900 later, went back, got my car inspected as like, I do not need this, but ended up seeing Thunderbolts the next day. I really enjoyed it. And outside of that was Mother's Day weekend. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Already talked about the Murphy bed, which is kind of cool. It's a good concept if you have don't have a lot of space in a small room. And I mowed the lawn today, which is something. So this lawnmower has been kind of finicky, and I couldn't get it started today. I was like, well, I guess I'm going to try my hand at small engine repair, something I'm not very good at. But I fixed the carburetor, and it starts up like a dream now on the first pull. So those small victories are always fantastic. But we're not here to talk about small engine repair. We're here to talk Hearthstone, and we're here to talk about Language Hacker. So, Language Hacker, how did you get started in gaming, and how did that lead you to Hearthstone?
There were some various small games that I have very vague memories of when I was little, but the big one was probably World of Warcraft. My best friend at the time was playing it, and I didn't really have much in terms of gaming experience, but it sounded like he was having a blast, so I convinced my parents at the time to let me try it out. I don't know how, but they did say, okay, fine, sure, whatever. And I played so much WoW, and it went on for years and years and years. And after that, kind of like what Hearthstone is now, I played WoW almost exclusively, and then I dabble in some other games, and then come back to WoW. One of my friends mentioned to me that Blizzard was coming out with a new game, Hearthstone, and I hadn't really played card games very much. Like I had some Yu-Gi-Oh cards and maybe some Pokemon cards, but I had no idea what I was doing when I was little and I had them. So I wasn't super sold on the idea, but I said, all right, whatever. I enjoy playing with the friends, so I'll try it out. And I got hooked. And then there was a long time where I was playing both WoW and Hearthstone, but eventually I kind of weaned off WoW, and I'm the Hearthstone main now.
So how did you end up with the name Language Hacker?
Actually, not long after playing WoW, a couple of years maybe after starting to play WoW. Sorry. I at the time my name wasn't Language Hacker. I had some other stupid name in WoW for my character, but my friend called me a language hacker because I'm Romanian and I speak multiple languages, and I don't know, he hadn't met many people who speak multiple languages. And I was like, that's stupid. Come on, what is that? That's like, you're just making stuff up. And when I had to go create accounts, I'm not a very creative person, and everything I tried was already taken. So I tried Language Hacker, and lo and behold, it was not taken. So that's my branding decision.
Now, is English your first language, or is it Romanian? What's your first language?
Romanian is my first language. I was born in Romania. I moved to Canada just before or just after I turned 5 years old, and since then I learned English and French, and
And it's just depressing to me that your second language you speak better than I do my first language, but that's okay. um, s- so, how did you find yourself competing at a high level of Hearthstone?
Um, going into this, so I'm generally a competitive person, which I may not have realized back then. But when I was playing WoW, for example, I was always trying to get these achievements, trying to do high level raids and dungeons and whatever. And when I was playing Hearthstone, it was a bit more casual at first. I remember watching. I have this memory of watching Reynad play Zoo Warlock, and I saw him just blasting through the ranks, and I thought, "Oh my god, that deck's got to be good. If I play that, I'm just going to climb." And I remember playing that deck, and I was not blasting through the ranks like Reynad, and I'm like, "If Reynad can do it, why can't I do it?" I'm just playing perfectly and not making any mistakes. And I realized at that point, like, that sounds incredibly silly. That can't be right. I need to understand why I'm doing things wrong and maybe evolve from there. And it wasn't even like an active thought like, oh, I want to be competitive. It just, my brain was like, how do you get better at this? And then that's when I started actually looking into stuff online, statistics, going into the community, understanding what other people are playing, finding out meta decks, etc. And that's when I started competing in open qualifiers while I was in university. In class, just jamming ladder. Oh my god, I played so much Hearthstone during class. Kids, don't do that. It's important to get an education, and then after you have some sort of education, you can, do what you want. But have a backup plan.
And don't worry, I think our medium age is 35, so we're fine.
Perfect.
You're a well-respected Hearthstone creator as well. So, did competing lead to content, or did content lead to competing? How did you get into the space of creating content?
While trying to get better at things, I don't think I watched much WoW streaming when I was playing WoW, but when I played Hearthstone, I think as my kind of road to getting better, I was watching people. And at that point, I thought streaming looks really, really fun. I kind of want to try that. So I think it followed the competitiveness, but because I was kind of involved in the community aspect of it, that's how it kind of led to that. And I streamed I think I actually streamed for several years before I had, an actual viewing. I know I streamed for several years to like 5-10 people, half of which were, friends and family. But then it actually started to grow, probably as I was making a name for myself, competing and doing stuff, and people kind of saw me in the community and were like, hey, I know that guy. And over time, it kind of built up. But I think it was kind of a mix of both.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah.
I am a really small streamer, so we're hoping at some point to grow a little bit. But yeah, I just got to get better at Hearthstone, which is challenging. So, what was it like winning an HTC championship?
It was very surreal. I have this memory of, well, first of all, let me preface it by saying this. Every single round at the HCT championships, I kept telling myself, well, you had a good run, dude. It's fine. You can go in and lose the next game. You did great. And I just didn't lose. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. Next one, it's fine. I'll lose and keep going. And fast forward to the finals, where I'm against Luna, formerly Bloodyface. And I didn't even realize during the game, but I was so focused on playing and kind of fidgeting that I didn't see them set up like confetti cannons next to us, and the stage was not very big. They had it zoomed in on us, but I could not. It was laser focused, and I remember the game kind of ended. I was like, oh, I won, and then the confetti cannon blew off, and then the rest is kind of a blur. I think there was a video of it somewhere, and I just looked like a deer in headlights for the most of it, and that's kind of what it felt like. A deer in headlights.
That's awesome. I think we understand where Smarms got her ideas from. I don't know if you know Send Me Your Arms, but if you sub to her stream, the confetti cannon goes off.
It's very satisfying. It's also funny seeing the I think Blizzard has it on their YouTube channel. They have a bunch of old tournaments there, and it's very high quality, like 1080p or whatever, until the confetti cannons go off, and then the bitrate just it drops to nothing, and you can barely see anything on the screen. So beautiful.
Do you have a match or a series that really kind of stands out to you, whether you won or lost? Of like, hey, this was like my signature moment or my signature game. Like I go back, like you know what I mean? Like, hey, this is a game that I'm really proud of, or a series you're really proud of.
There are two series I was really proud of that I have saved on a sticky note in case they ever get lost. One was actually at the Fall Championships, where I spent the whole turn. I can't remember if it was like 7 or 8 mana, but I basically spent all but one of my mana, and I had coin left as a druid, and I could coin hero power to gain 1 life. And I sat there thinking about that for like 2 minutes, and I did it. And because I did it, it played around some weird fringe scenario that I had actually thought of. It happened, they were 1 off, and then I went on to win that game in the series. Actually, no, I lost that series, but let's not forget, the game was good, the series was not so good. In the same series, I actually attacked a minion with a weapon and then Hunter's marked it, so it didn't do anything. Which I will also remember forever, but that's fine. I try to focus on the positive there. That was one. And the second one was at, I think, Masters Tour Vegas. The meta at this point was, there were a lot of, it was specialists. There were a lot of people playing Conjurers Calling Mage. If you remember, like, big hand, drop some Mountain Giants, and like Conjurers Calling to make big boards. And everyone was running Blizzards and stuff for the mirrors, so the minions couldn't attack. And I ended up Blizzard Doomsayering my opponent, even though I had twice the board they did, because I had no freezes left. So I knew that if they froze and redeveloped the board, I would lose the game most of the time, because I had nothing left in hand that could help me win. So I preemptively blew up the board to give me like 2 more draws to get to something else. And Admirable actually saw it, and he was freaking out on cast, like, oh my god, he's crazy. Oh my god, this was amazing. And it didn't matter, but the idea was cool, and just I think part of that was Admirable's what's the word? Not stamina, but like
Enthusiasm.
Yeah, it bled through, and I got excited from that after watching it later.
Yeah, I was looking at this. I think Vegas. That was the one where it was Gallon versus Dog in the final,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
That was a good tournament all around. I really remember. I remember really enjoying that. I miss having those often on Twitch because I used to watch those all the time, and I hope they bring them back. I also was looking at the 2018. I think it was TJ. It was I know Cora was there too before she became the Queen of Hearthstone there on the dev team.
I remember she interviewed actually after I won a set, or it actually might have been the whole thing. She asked me how am I feeling, and Cora, I just kind of blubbered on for a few minutes, and not a few minutes, a few seconds, and just said, it's good. I don't know, Cora. And she said, okay, there you have it.
So you were also a Grandmaster. What was that experience like?
It was really cool. Now, I want to, before I go on and finish the rest of this answer, I want to say that I was not one of the original Grandmasters. I had to fight my way in through Masters tours. So for those who aren't aware, the initial set of Grandmasters was chosen at Worlds 2019 that I competed at, and it was based off a series of I don't want to say metrics, but something like metrics based on how important you were in Hearthstone's history, how recent your competitive accolades are, and I was 1 game away at Worlds from getting that Grandmaster spot. If I had won 1 more game at Worlds, I would have been in the initial set of Grandmasters. Because I didn't win that, I had to fight the next year going through all the Masters tours, which I did enjoy, don't get me wrong, but it was quite a slog to get in there. I got in there the hard way. That being said, Grandmasters was really, really cool and also really, really disappointing. Having a system like that kind of recognizes, like, oh, look at these high-tiered players, I think is kind of cool to have that recognition. But I think it also creates quite a, I don't know, like a gap between everyone else who wants to play and compete, even if it's a bit more casually, and this like system that's almost unbreakable into. Which I felt firsthand that first year going through that. I really enjoyed being competitive and trying my hardest to do that, but it was exhausting. And frankly, I had the privilege of doing that because to do that, you'd have to travel to a bunch of different events and actually compete in them to be able to get enough points to qualify to Grandmasters. So I'm thankful for that. But it was really cool being able to rub elbows with all of these great minds in Hearthstone on a regular basis too, because it wasn't just, here's 1 week of tournaments. They had it like a system where you played 8 weeks in a row or something for a season, and you were constantly playing in like Swiss tournaments with all these incredible players from your own region, and then also later on, if you make it to like their version of playoffs, you also got to face great people from Asia Pacific, Europe, all over the world. And that was really cool. But how it kind of ended and the divide it created between, I guess, the community really kind of sucked.
Do you miss it at all? I mean, except for the negative there that you're saying at the end?
Yeah, it was. I think cadence-wise, it would have been nice to find a better balance because it felt like there was just someone pressing the gas for 8 weeks in a row, which is hard to do for anyone who has a life outside of Hearthstone. And if that better cadence was found, I think it would have been nice, but I definitely do miss it. And I know that there's ways that they could have improved it, but due to reasons that kind of got axed, which is fair. I mean, I don't think that was the iteration of esports and community that we want. So I'm glad that we've been moving away from that, but I do think there was something there that could have maybe been improved on.
I always said I would have liked it if they had, and obviously budget's an issue, but I would have liked it if they would have had like 3 tiers, kind of like, you have in soccer over in Europe, where you have like, you can get regulated or you can promote and all that. I thought there was an opportunity there to have multiple layers. So that way, that was one of the hardest things to see. If you got regulated from Grandmasters, you then had to fight again through that whole process. And I remember that was hard to do. And it should have just been some easier way to fall, but then get back up. If you could go back and recraft Grandmasters and make it better, what would you do?
Exactly that, actually. Assuming, not a budget issue, you'll have to excuse me because like this discussion was very avid when Grandmasters had just ended and while it was still on. And I remember we talked so much about it, not just us Grandmasters, but the whole community had great ideas too, because like everyone wanted it to be good and better, which I loved. Some sort of tiered system. I don't know how you can run it. What you said, like how they do soccer, football in Europe, I think would be a great way to do it. Obviously, there's some restraints there with budget and handling that. I know that the admins who constantly and consistently do incredible jobs over the years, they were probably pressed pretty hard doing tournaments every single week, not just for Grandmasters, but the years before that doing open qualifiers, and even now doing the qualifiers again. There's definitely some budget issues that are kind of behind the veil there. Obviously, we can't really see into that, but it's clear that I don't want to say more could be done because it's not really up to them. They're doing the best they can. It's, you have a budget and you have to work within it.
Fair enough. So you've kind of largely been off the competitive radar since the Grandmasters ended. But you've been seen kind of popping up in some qualifiers lately. Are you thinking about making a comeback, or haven't I just seen you participating? You've been there.
I've been vocal about being not the best ladder grinder, and I've been vocal about being a tournament player. I think I thrive in making lineups that can take advantage of other people. I think I have an edge. I think I'm still a very good player, don't get me wrong, but I think the edge I have over other great players in the world is that I can build lineups that take advantage of the field, let's say, and do well against what I think most other players will bring. And because of that, I have like a statistical odd going in. I'm favored, so to speak. So I have been doing ladder, but I haven't been going for finishes last year because I didn't think I could just get top 1 every single month and qualify to Worlds last year like that. I've been pushing a little more now with a competitive announcement because open qualifiers are also back to some extent. And that's where I enjoy playing Hearthstone the most. So I'm definitely playing as many of those as I can and as is reasonable to allow with my real life time stuff. So yeah, I don't want to say I'm back, but as long as there is a system that I can compete in, I will try to.
Now, I have seen that you've also been kind of streaming a little bit less lately. Is that obviously you have a lot going on with real life, as we've been talking about, but do you think you're going to start streaming more again now that you're also kind of starting to ramp this back up? Or are you just kind of happy to play on the weekends in your tournaments and keep the rest of it? Where are you with that?
I've really grown to enjoy streaming over the past, since Grandmasters, let's say, and it's a little bit before, but I've really enjoyed hanging out with my community and with my wife's community who also streams. Shout out to the housewife. I have been streaming a lot less in general since, let's say, a couple years back, but more specifically the past month or two. My graphics card actually kind of exploded and I had to send it in for repairs and I'm expecting it back soon. So I am planning on streaming again. It's just hard finding a balance because I don't know, there's too much stuff to do in life, and I do enjoy streaming and I do enjoy competing, and it's hard to find a balance between those two specifically because those are both like my free time allotments, and you can kind of do both. Like I've been tempted to stream qualifiers or stream ladder, but I do find I perform worse when I'm doing that. Even though I'm having more fun, it has some conflicting goals there. So sometimes I say, whatever, let's just stream it. I wanna hang out with people. And sometimes I'll say, I don't know, it's the 28th of the month. I kind of need a ladder finish, and maybe I don't stream today.
All right, well, that's fair. So you've been HCC champion, you've been a grandmaster, you've won in all kinds of places, but arguably your biggest win is marrying the housewife. So how did that happen?
That is my biggest accomplishment. Well, we actually met through Twitch and Hearthstone. Okay. So she actually saw me first on Twitch, and she hopped in my stream. I don't remember if she raided or was just browsing through and saw it. And I didn't actually interact with her at this time because she didn't say anything in chat. But she saw how salty I was and said, "Oh, I don't like this guy," and then immediately left. I have since become less salty. And later on, she found out that I'm Romanian, and she reached out to me on Twitter and said, "Hey, like, you're Romanian too? And we're streaming, and we're both Hearthstone players? Wow, it's crazy." And we started talking from there. We started hanging out, became friends. We had some fun co-ops, which we've actually been browsing a bunch of our like old YouTube and Twitch VODs and stuff, because Twitch has changed some not settings, but like VOD limits that you can hold. Anyways, we've been going through a bunch of old VODs, and we've seen all these old co-ops, and that's been really cool. But we used to co-op a bit and just, play some stuff, have some fun, learn some decks together, panic and BG turns, and before Duas come out, there was just someone on a call. It's like, "Oh my god, do this, do that, play pirates," and it was really fun. And we kind of grew more and more close, and eventually we started visiting each other because we were living on different continents. And then we got married in Italy, and since she's come here to Canada, and we've been living together for the past sometime since last year.
It's fantastic, and two of the greatest people in the Hearthstone community coming together. It's exactly what you want to see. So, not counting yourself or your wife, who is your favorite streamer or competitor?
Tice, I think, on both counts. It's like an obvious pick, but like I have a lot of streamers that have influenced me, and competitors, not just streamers. So it's hard to. I also suck at favorite questions. I always like, I like this guy, but I like this girl too. But like, oh my god, there's a lot of influences. But I think to just instead of going back and forth, I think Tice on both fronts, because he's been an incredible competitor for as long as I've been seeing Hearthstone. He's been on the scene from the start. He's been competing consistently at the top while streaming full time, also getting married and meeting someone through the internet that he's done. So there's also a parallel there with me and wifey. He's just constantly positive whenever I'm hopping in on stream. Even when he's salty, he's kind of nice. So it's kind of, he's just a very positive influence on me and the community in general. I think we're lucky to have him, and it's yeah.
We're gonna wrap up with one question. It's another favorite, so I apologize. I didn't realize you didn't like
That's
them.
okay.
But what's your favorite class, and what's your favorite deck of all time?
Again, there's a group of classes that I really enjoy playing. If we're so the link from WoW, World of Warcraft, is I almost exclusively played Mage. So Mage is one of the first things I like doing in Hearthstone, and I still enjoy that sort of wizardy sorcery type thing. But in terms of gameplay and discovering my identity in Hearthstone, it's got to be a mix between Priest and Warrior, because I'm a yucky control player and I just love staying alive and getting value and blah 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 blah. Yeah. And my favorite deck, as a follow-up, which interestingly was not a control deck, was Fallen the Priest. It was a very niche deck where the game plan revolved around getting Sister's Falna, which gives you a permanent spell in your hand that lets you discover more things, getting 2 Radiant Elementals in your deck, and then having 3 on the board at once with some resurrection effects, so that Discover spell is free, and you can literally chain as many shadow spells as you can play in one turn, which can get you value, healing. You can start shipping void shards at their face to start killing them. It was incredibly flexible, incredibly high APM, and probably irreparably caused some nerve damage in my right arm, but it was worth it.
One last question. You played during the Specialist era. That was a format that a lot of people didn't like. How did you like it, and do you think that it would have been more well-received if it wasn't for the fact that it was at the same time of the meta where you had the Archivist Warrior deck there that went on forever?
Specialist. I think Specialist. It is interesting because I don't think Specialist in itself is a bad format. And I say that because it has its own unique thing. And before ATC, Hearthstone didn't really have what card players call sideboarding, where you can have a set of cards that you can change in between games to give you some flexibility depending on what you're facing. And I think having that sort of sideboarding, even in its, I don't want to call it a primitive, but it was like the initial sideboarding thing in Hearthstone that they kind of added. So I think that's great because it lets you explore the game in different ways. And that's why I actually like having different formats. I don't like sticking to one because it gets boring after a while, and having the option of building lineups in different ways is very fascinating to me. So it's not that I necessarily had a problem with Specialists, it's that I had a problem with Specialists being there for so long. And it was also in the Specialist meta that was extremely, let's say, polarizing. You can always argue that metas are polarizing, but most of my Grandmaster Specialist memory was playing against Bomb Warrior and Pocket Galaxy Mage before the nerf. So it was just people full mulliganing for Pocket Galaxy to play it on 4 or 5, which ended up deciding some Masters tours, let's be honest. And of course they played well, but Pocket Galaxy on 4 or 5 kind of ends games, and Bomb Warrior just having consistent bomb game plan also kind of ends games. So it was, I have dreams about bombs exploding still. So that was my problem with Specialist.
Pylet, I know you're still there somewhere, I think, right?
Yes.
What's our main topic today?
So our main topic this week was inspired by my past 2 weeks of Hearthstone. And that is what to do when you're stuck in a slump. So I had mentioned, before this, weekend, leading up to recording, I was just struggling. I wasn't playing as bad win rate as I thought that I was, but I definitely didn't feel like I was playing necessarily bad, but I wasn't getting the results that I was looking for. And is especially showing in THL, to where I just was struggling, could not secure a series, a couple weeks where I had, bad lineup choices, or, tried to do a little bit of scouting, and, kind of had the well, they brought this, and then they took the extra step of, oh, he's gonna bring this, so I'll bring this instead, and the weird things that happen there. But I was just kind of stuck and not sure what I was supposed to do. Enough so to where Tito and I went through and did some replay reviews, and we found one major misplay, and a lot of spots where it's just like, well, we could have done this, but I don't know if you can make a strong enough argument in the game to do the different thing. Which led me to thinking, okay, what do I need to do to get out of this slump? And I've always been someone who has been prone to slumps in everything that I've done. I currently bowl, and I bowled growing up, and the month of February has always been a month that I forget how to bowl. I bowl like 30 pins under my average, don't know what I'm doing, and it's just what happens every February. And trying to find those consistencies of what makes me so inconsistent is something I haven't been able to do yet. So wanted to discuss a little bit of different things that we can do to try to break out of slumps while we're playing. And I think the biggest thing that everything that I was thinking of, trying to go through some ideas, is some sort of mental reset is normally the best thing that you can do. Whatever that has to be, most of the time when we're in a slump, we're our own worst enemy. And trying to find whatever you can do to just mentally reset and get your focus on something other than losing is probably your best way out. For me, normally that's trying something different. So I finally switched to a deck that was not a meta deck, was not something that was being targeted, and it was a deck style that I really enjoy with this Double Frost Unholy Death Knight. It's just something that I was playing before, had kind of gone away from it because it's not fantastic into Demon Hunter and all the lifesteal, but this version is different enough that it can get away with it sometimes if the Demon Hunter doesn't draw well enough. It's not great, but it's a little bit better. But it was enough to kind of reset my mind and kind of re-engage with Hearthstone in a healthier way after being frustrated for a couple weeks. So, Tito, what are some ways that you have to get out of slumps?
What I usually do is I just spiral out of control and stay in that slump for a long time. But what I also do is when I'm at a floor and I'm not winning with what I'm doing, and sometimes, usually at the start of a season, I have a hard time finding the deck. Maybe not a season. At start of a meta, or maybe even start of a season, I have a hard time finding a deck that I'm happy with. And maybe the deck that I was doing before, winning with before, isn't quite working in the new meta or whatever. So when I'm at a rank floor, I then give up for a little bit and say, all right, we're going to try to make Black Rock and Roll Warrior work again. Or we're going to try play an Earthen Paladin, and we're going to play that Earthen Paladin Highlander deck that really stinks, but I think I can make it work this time. Try to mix up some cards. And then so you start playing a deck that you're going to lose with, and you try to find some ways to make yourself win. You win a couple games with that, and you're like, all right, let's switch it up and let's start trying to play again. Because it's you kind of normalize, like, not normalize losing, that sounds bad, but you've kind of like taken the thought of it and just been like, all right, we had some fun. Now let's kind of, reset and play something with a little more serious to it. That is something I do. Also, you got to step away, which I never do. So that's one of those things where I say, do as I say, not as I do, because I know you should walk away, and you lose 3 or 4 games in a row, you're supposed to step away. But if you're streaming, you can't do that. And if you're just kind of a silly person like me, you don't do that either. So, I kind of don't bust slumps, really. I just kind of fight through them until I'm no longer slumping. I don't know how to say it better than that, but like sometimes you switch decks
Fair.
and you find the deck that works, and you just kind of stick. Once you find that deck, stick with it and ride it if you can, and try to figure out the matchups and figure out why you're losing. And another thing we have mentioned many times is, if you're losing and it's like, well, I keep losing to this deck, maybe I'm supposed to be winning. I'm favored in this matchup. Why do I keep losing? Play the other deck, because when you start playing the other deck, you will figure out how that deck loses, because you will lose with that deck and be like, oh, okay, that's how I beat that deck. And that'll really help you out there.
Yeah, I'm a big slumper, by the way. Especially at the start of the month too. I'll get some star bonus going. I'll start rolling, and then suddenly I hit a wall. Like, okay, whatever. Lost my streak. It's fine. Keep losing. All right. Well, can't lose stars at this rank anymore, so that's great. And exactly what you guys are saying. The best thing to do is to walk away, which you can't really do when you're streaming. But if you can, go for a walk, get some water, turn on a stream or something. And the best thing to reset is literally to just completely reset. And that means kind of like turn yourself off and on. If you can't do that, then yeah, I think switching to something that you're comfortable with or you want to have fun with it is the best thing to do. I will always switch to like this stupid, janky Death Knight that has 10 tech cards. And even though it should be losing less, I'm just going to somehow win with it more, or at least I'm having fun when I'm losing because I'm playing my own thing. All of these things are great. I did the same thing.
See, I'm well on my way to being a pro.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely did that. I got swept in my THL match on Thursday and was not very happy with how I played or how the match went. And instantly turned off my computer. I went on a walk. I went on a 2.5 mile. I have a 2.5 mile loop kind of around the edge of town where I live. I'm like, it's time for a walk. It's nice out. Get away from the game. And I don't think I came back and played more that night. I think I came back to maybe Tito's stream and maybe we played a duos, but I don't remember. And then I ended up not playing on Friday. That my match was Thursday. I got home from work Friday, wanted to play games, and knew that Hearthstone was not the game to play at that time because I was tired and frustrated. So I ended up accidentally falling asleep and taking a nap. And then played Power Wash Simulator because I still have it on the Xbox, and Tito is making fun of me. He's just like, wow, Hearthstone's going that poorly. I'm like, I needed a brain off, don't think, just relax game. And it might have been the best thing that I did for my Hearthstone game on Friday, because then I reset for this weekend.
Absolutely. Like when Hearthstone starts, or anything, not even just Hearthstone, this applies to everything. If the game you're playing to have fun is starting to be a chore and you're not enjoying it, just come back to it some other time. If that means taking a day or a week off, there have been times where I've literally walked away from Hearthstone for like a month or two because I'm like, I just am not enjoying this. There's nothing going on. I have no reason to play. I'm just playing and getting mad. And going and doing something else is just perfect. Also, Power Wash Simulator 2 coming out soon, I think.
Maybe. I feel like I saw that, but I don't remember.
I saw that as well. Tangent, but fun.
So.
And the thing too is sometimes your slump is, sometimes you got to figure out why you're slumping. And in Pylet's case, he just was, I think you were hitting a kind of just a bad run, but like what's happening in your life? Is work kind of not going well? You've been fighting with your significant other, raining all the time, something going wrong. Like if you are having those things, those external effects, and you sit down to play the game and you lose your first game, you're not going to be in a good mood, and it's going to affect your play and be like, oh, of course they have that card, and of course that happened, and it's just you start just kind of spiraling. And sometimes it's hard to notice that. Sometimes it's even hard to notice that you're losing because you may feel like there's a lot of times where you're playing well and I lost that game, whatever, and then you look at the stats, you're like, wait, I'm playing like 30%. What the heck's happening here? And it didn't feel like that, but yeah, you are slumping. And it's like, well, I can do something different. So it's like kind of acknowledging or being aware of why you're slumping and trying to figure that out. And not everything you can control. Sometimes you have bad cards. Sometimes you're going to sit down, you're going to play really well, and you're going to lose more games than you win. That's part of playing card games. But if you want to not slump, you also have to kind of understand that the external things can affect you when you play as well.
Mm-hmm.
I died to a Reska in Arena today, and it brought back so many bad memories from the past year and a half. They Reska to take my Troublemaker, and I died that turn. I was so mad. I'm like, oh, yep, I'm glad this card's gone. So, yeah, and I definitely feel that with the what's going on outside of the game. I try to keep a very basic spreadsheet that I haven't updated in like 5 months apparently, of my record for the month, win rate, what I hit legend with, highest rank I was that month, or where I finished, just general basic stats to kind of look at trends. And as I look back through, for every year since I've been actually trying once I hit Legend, because the first like half year once I hit Legend, I just memed and played whatever weird stuff I could and finished 5 digits. But every year, July and February are normally my worst 2 months. July is when I have band camp and marching band the whole month, and February is when I work on the musical at school. I'm super busy. I'm not playing as much, and when I am, I'm not playing well because I'm tired. Those are definitely things to factor in, and can cause slumps, especially if you're trying to force yourself to play during those times, and then trying to balance both those out. For me, slumping at this time was a little bit different for me, to where that's where I had to kind of take that break and figure out what am I doing, and just finding out sometimes you just have really bad luck, and that's okay. It's the metas like this are normally not my friend either, to where you have these 3 or 4 very powerful decks that's kind of the whole meta literally circles around them because they kind of beat each other. And I always struggle in stuff like this because I don't know which one to play, because whatever I queue, it's going to be wrong. And I'm going to face the stuff that beats me. And it happens.
Have you run into like a big kind of slump when you were competing in Grandmasters, or when you were playing in tournaments or qualifiers? And how different is that when you're trying to get out of a competitive slump versus just kind of like a ladder?
Hard. It's very hard. It depends on the time period. There have been different sort of levels of that. In the initial stages of the esports system, where there were like open qualifying cups almost every day, you flunk out a 1, you flunk out a 2, you say, you know what, I can take a break, I'll come back in a few days. That's a bit harder to do on ladder, because if you need like a top 100 finish, that's pretty time consuming to do. And taking a couple days off, particularly near the end of the month, because let's be honest, we all procrastinate. So 2 days left in the month, you have a bad beat and you're thinking, well, I can't really take a day off because then that's it. So some slumps have been really frustrating to kind of fight through, and short breaks, at least go for a walk, clear your head, definitely helpful. But in the earlier stages where there was just plenty of content to kind of consume competitively, it wasn't quite as bad, because you could walk away and it's fine. It'll be here when I get back. But I feel like the system has been a bit more punishing in that sense since that time, as it's gotten a bit farther away from the tournaments, which again can't reiterate enough. Very happy that the tournaments are back, the qualifying ones.
Do you have any final thoughts on slump busting?
Yeah, so I think the 2 biggest things that come to mind, building off of one thing that Language Hacker said earlier, is this is a game that we all play to have fun. And for 99% of the player base, you can take a break and you can step away from it. Obviously, if you're someone up at the top, top of ladder and trying to get that finish, it's a little bit different, like we said, but that is not the majority of the player base. So take a break. A break can be your friend. And then the second thing is something that I feel like I tell my students all the time as we're getting ready for performances, and that's focus on what you can control. You can control how you play your cards. You can control how you mulligan. You can control how you react to things. You can't control what your opponent does to cause those reactions. So the more you can focus on what you can actually control is normally the quickest way to improve your play and to kind of mentally reset, in my opinion.
And even if you don't want to get out of Hearthstone and you want to play a quick game of Battlegrounds.
Yep.
Just transition something else, get your mind working a little differently. And one thing we always say is, if you're in Discord or you're in a community, get someone to look at your replays and say, hey, what am I doing wrong here? Because maybe sometimes you just get fixated on something and it's just like, well, why do you keep doing this? Or why are you doing this? And it's really just something small, and you got the yips, and you just figure out something one minor correction, you might be there. So, Language Hacker, you got any final thoughts?
Fresh set of eyes, super, super helpful. I love practice groups because of that exact thing. I know that if I have to submit a lineup and I'm not thinking, 24 hours a day how to make it better, I'm just going to say, I want to play 3 or 4 control decks. And I have other people in a practice group who are saying, well, I like to play aggro decks, and I don't think that the control decks are good in this meta. And then we have a combo guy saying, well, technically the combo decks are probably better. But having different perspectives is great because you actually get to bounce ideas off of each other. You get to understand other perspectives. And the last thought is also be mindful, be kind to yourself in these slump situations, and be kind to others as well, but particularly about slumps. Don't beat yourself up. We all have them. If you can walk away from it, just walk away from it. It's not worth spiraling, basically. Be kind.
Well said. Well, folks, you're listening here. You've probably been listening for a while. You're still in this episode. You must like us. Go give us a review. We'd appreciate it. Helps other people find the show, helps us grow, and then what I always like to say is we have amazing guests. We have never had a bad guest so far. I hope to keep that streak alive. And we want people to hear our guests because they're spending their time, very valuable time. In fact, Language Hacker had to switch rooms so he could stay up later to hang out with us and do this on a Sunday night. People are giving up the valuable time. So help people find us so that way they can hear this wonderful show that we have with great guests. Language Hacker, we do have one last question for you. What is your favorite dessert?
That's out of left field. Oh God. What's yours?
Tiramisu.
Okay, Pylet?
Brownies, for sure.
I like a good chocolate chip cookie. I'm not big on desserts, but just first thing that popped in my head was like a nice melting cookie.
Nice. I've told this on the show before. I used to deliver hot, fresh cookies in college. You would order your cookies. We would bake them, and then we would deliver them with milk and Ben & Jerry's ice cream hot.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
It was one of the best jobs I've ever had that paid minimum wage or close to it. Language Hacker, where can people find you on social media?
On X, at Language Hacker _ spelled normally, no space, no capitals, and on Twitch, just Language Hacker spelled properly. I make that distinction because my battle tag is missing vowels, but my tags are not.
Yeah, I remember I was asking because I think I played you once on ladder, and I was during a stream, and I was like, "Is this really Language Hacker?" Because you had the names as we were like, we had a debate about it for a little while. We think so. And yeah, it was you. Pylet, where can people find you on social media?
You can mainly find me on Discord, Pylet712. That's Pylet. I'm in a few different Hearthstone Discords, so you can find me there or DM me. I also am on Twitter, but don't check that nearly as often at the same username.
And you can find me on Tito Santana HS on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, and anywhere else you can find me. If I'm not there, let me know. I'll try to do it. I got to get on the gram. I don't do many pictures, but maybe we'll do that in the future. Language Hacker, do you have anything you'd like to promote or anybody you'd like to shout out this week?
Yeah, my wife. I switched rooms first so she could get some rest. Her tag's The Housewife. You can find her at The Housewife HS on pretty much Instagram, Twitter, Twitch. She used to do YouTube, not so much anymore, but those are the main 3. And she streams pretty much every day. Sometimes I pop in and say hi in the morning, so check her out. She does Hearthstone, BG's, a lot of stuff. She's doing some variety things now too. But shout out to my wife because she's amazing and she supports my slow descent into madness that is Hearthstone.
Yeah, your wife is one of the nicest people in the Hearthstone community, and it's always fun interacting with her. Pylet, you have anything you'd like to shout out or promote this week?
I'm going to give a shout out to you, Tito, for helping me to figure out that I'm not insane by going over those replays with me over the week. We reviewed the one series for my THL match, one where I think we went 5 games, lost 2-3. But the very first game, we got 7 turns in. I was way ahead, and you looked you just mentioned out of the blue, it's just like, you lost this game. I'm like, yes, I'm still frustrated about it a week later. I don't know how, to where just as a Protoss mage that just barely out armored me the entire time. So was very, very helpful to kind of help my reset and get back on track. Didn't help my match last week, where they targeted my lineup very well, but hopefully next week.
That's always my issue, because how often do I pick a lineup and then we do the matrix there and it's all red? It's like, well, I guess you can probably do this one because it's closest. I can't. I just can't figure it out. I play what I want to play, and then people aren't targeting me. They just happen to play the exact counters to what I'm doing, and I hate it. I'm gonna shout out. I always do this section. I always sometimes forget unless there's something going on who I'm going to. But I'm gonna shout out everybody that came to Boston this week. I wasn't able to go up to the Warcraft event up in Boston. I think it was like the 30th anniversary of Warcraft, and I think they went to 6 different cities, and I believe this was the last one. I could be wrong, but it sounded like everyone had a good time. People get to meet Cora, they get to meet Hat, they get to meet Kira. There was a bunch of people there. It looked like it was a ton of fun, and I hope I get to go to the next one. It just, the Hearthstone community is awesome, and yeah, sometimes you're going to get that salty ad where someone says something not nice and it's not cool. But if you get involved in the community, you're going to find some of the best people out there in gaming. So I recommend it. But I think we're toast. I guess we'll see you.
See ya.
Yeah.
Slide two brothers meet one another when they slide up to the mic. It's bread and butter with one another. Let's start up that recording light.